Today, we are going to be deploying Apache Airflow on AWS with CNDI. As you can see, we currently have Airflow running and it's accessible at a specified domain name. This is the final product of the walkthrough, and this video is meant for you to be able to follow along and make your own deployment. If you run into any issues or bugs along the way, please feel free to reach out to us on Discord or our GitHub discussions page. I'll link them below and we'll help you with your deployment. There will also be a completely documented walkthrough and our website linked below as well. So we're just going to start from the homepage of our website, cndi.dev, and we're going to navigate to the templates page. We're going to go ahead and scroll down here until we see a list of all of our templates. We're going to look at the Airflow card, and then we're going to click the AWS deployment target. This page is going to give you a little bit more information about our Airflow template, so feel free to read through that. We're also recognized by Apache Airflow as an official deployment method, but we're just going to click Get Started. And this is going to take you right to our GitHub repo. And I'm just going to call out quickly that our GitHub page is a really good resource for people who are interested in CNDI, and it's completely open source. It goes more in depth about how CNDI powers a GitOps-enabled workflow, not just by being a deployment tool, but you can manage your cluster over time with commands like CNDI overwrite. But let's get right into how to make your deployment. And when you land on our GitHub page here, you're going to want to scroll down until you see the walkthrough section, and then just click on the Airflow AWS one. And if you want, you can read through this whole walkthrough. I'm just going to show the prerequisites here, but you do need an AWS cloud account and your AWS credentials. If you don't know how to get your AWS credentials, then you can click on this link and then follow some AWS documentation, or we also have an AWS setup guide, and it tells you in there how to get your credentials as well. You're also going to need a domain name, a GitHub account, and the GitHub command line installed. So once you have all your prerequisites sorted out, you can scroll down here, and depending on what machine you're using, macOS, Linux, Windows, go ahead and copy the correct command for your machine. In this case, I'm using a Mac, so I'm going to copy the Mac one. For this walkthrough, I'm also going to be using Hyperterminal, but it's not required, and you can just use your normal Mac terminal. But I'm just going to paste the install command right in there and hit enter. This is going to take a little bit of time for CNDI to download, so I'll be right back when it's finished. So once CNDI downloads, it's going to look something like this. You can also read through all of the CNDI commands if you're interested, but for this tutorial, we're going to be specifically using the CNDI create command. So I'm just going to clear this and then copy and paste a command that I already wrote out here. So what this command is saying is CNDI create, then this is the name of the GitHub account that you want to make your deployment with. Then this is the name of the repo that you want to create for your deployment, and then you're going to CD into that repo. So once we hit enter here, it's going to run us through a list of interactive prompts, and it's going to take all that information, create a configuration file, and make your deployment. So let's just go ahead and hit enter. And it's going to ask us to please confirm the destination directory for your CNDI project. Just make sure it's right in there. And I'm just going to hit enter. Please enter a name for your CNDI project. Again, I'm just going to hit enter. For this specific walkthrough, we're going to be using our Airflow templates on AWS, EKS, and then you're going to want to enter your GitHub username. And then pass in your GitHub personal access token. And then it's going to ask for an email to use for the Let's Encrypt certificate registration. Would you like to enable external DNS for automatic DNS management? Yes. Please select your DNS provider. In this case, I'm going to be using AWS. Enter an override for the default Argo admin password. I'm just going to type admin. Please enter your AWS access key. So this is from the prerequisites. You're going to need your AWS access key. And just be careful when you copy and paste it that you don't have a space before or after, because that can affect your deployment. And then you're going to want to do that again for your secrets key. Please enter your AWS region. Just going to hit enter. Would you like to expose Argo with an ingress? Yes. And that's just going to make Argo CD accessible on the web. What host name should Argo be accessible at? So in this case, I'm going to be using the domain cndi.xyz. So the host name that I'm going to give for Argo is going to be argo cd.cndi.xyz, which is a domain that I already manage on AWS Route 53. Do you want to expose the Airflow UI to the web? Yes. What host name should Airflow be accessible at? And again, I'm just going to type airflow.cndi.xyz. What is the URL of the Git repository containing your Airflow DAGs? And we just have a demo DAGbag repo, so I'm just going to hit enter on that for the sake of the walkthrough. Do you want to use your cluster credentials for Airflow Git sync? Yes. Please enter a password for the Postgres database. Again, I'm just going to type admin. And then that's all it's going to ask us. CNDI will do some work in the background and create a CNDI configuration file and a directory for your project in the newly created repo, and I'll be right back when that's complete. So this is what it's going to look like when all that's done, and we're going to be able to click right on this link right here. It says created CNDI cluster repo, and then it has a URL for the newly created repo on GitHub. You're going to see a little orange dot here, and it's going to say pending, which means that a GitHub action is running in the background and your cluster is actually already being created. This can take some time, so I'll be back when the action is complete. And just to show you guys, we can see that our July 2nd CNDI deployment cluster is currently being created, and we haven't even touched AWS or gone into the back end of the console at all. Okay, so it's been around 37 minutes, and we can now see that the orange dot has turned into a green check mark that now says success. If we click on the GitHub actions, we can see that the actual action itself only took around 16 minutes. It took a little bit longer after the action was complete for Argo and Airflow to be accessible on the domains, but it's still only been 38 minutes. But if we paste in airflow.cndi.xyz to our URL bar, we can now see that Airflow is hosted and we can now access it with that domain. And same thing for Argo. If we paste Argo in here, we're also going to get a login screen for that. And so the default username and password for Airflow is going to be admin sign in. And we can see that we're currently running our test DAGs on Airflow hosted on our EKS cluster deployed with CNDI. And we can also log into Argo here with our username and password as admin and admin as well. And we can also see that everything is running as expected on Argo. The last thing that we can look at is our AWS console. And if we go back to the same cluster, the July 2nd CNDI deployment, we can see that it is active. And congratulations, you have made your Airflow deployment successfully with CNDI. Thank you so much for watching the walkthrough. Again, if you need any help with your deployment, please feel free to reach out to us and we can help you with any issues that you have. Have a great day, everyone, and we'll see you in the next video.